Hello, this is a re-recording of the presentation given on November 6th in Douglas due to technical difficulties and a delay in the recording. The information and materials presented today are the same as those presented at the November 6th hearing. This re-recording will allow folks unable to attend the hearing to hear the presentation clearly and firsthand. My name is Casey Allman. I am the AMA Establishment Supervisor with the Arizona Department of Water Resources. I will be going over this presentation with you, which includes the draft plan, GUAC comments on the plan, discussion regarding the goal, hydrology, supply and demand, recharge and recovery information, conservation programs within the plan, implementation and compliance, and water strategy. Within 30 days from November 6th, the Director will make and file in the Department a written summary and findings with respect to the comments and evidence received. If in the findings, the Director decides to adopt a management plan, the Director will make and file with the Department an order adopting the plan pursuant to the findings. Notice of the order will be sent to all persons who signed the attendance sheet and to all persons who submitted comments or evidence prior to the close of the record at the November 6th hearing. The Director will also publish a summary of the plan, findings, order of adoption once a week for 2 consecutive weeks in the Arizona Republic newspaper. Pursuant to Arizona Revised Statutes sections 45-571 and 45-114 subsection C, any person may file a request for a rehearing or review of the order of adoption within 30 days after a second publication of the notice. The last day for filing requests for rehearing or review will be identified in both the mailed and published notices of the order of adoption. If no one files a timely request for a rehearing or review, the plan will become final. If a timely request for rehearing or review is filed, the Director will have 60 days after receiving the request to issue a decision on that request. The Director may grant a rehearing, grant review without a rehearing, or deny the request. Any person may seek judicial review of the Director's decision to adopt a management plan as provided in Arizona Revised Statutes sections 45-114 subsection C. Within 30 days after the plan becomes final, the Department will mail notice of the conservation requirements contained in the plan to all persons who are required to comply with the requirements. Any aggrieved person may request an administrative review of a conservation requirement within 90 days after receiving notice of the requirement as provided by Arizona Revised Statutes section 45-575 subsection A. A person who requires additional time to comply with a new conservation requirement may request a variance within 90 days after receiving a notice of the requirement pursuant to Arizona Revised Statutes section 45-574 subsection A. Consistent with ARS 45-570D, the purpose of this presentation is to provide you with a summary of comments on the proposed management plan and data in support for the proposed First Douglas Management Plan. ADWR will publish written findings from November 6th hearing within 30 days and may adopt the plan at that time. As long as adoption of the proposed plan occurs within this calendar year, the conservation programs in the plan will go into effect on January 1st, 2027, and will remain in effect until the legislature deems otherwise. The recommendations from GUAC members covered multiple topics. There were some typographical or data errors that were corrected. There were questions regarding consumptive use coefficients, which led to some corrections in the consumptive use numbers. There was also a question regarding the supply and demand chapter and streamflow infiltration averages, which led to the Department adding a disclaimer to Table 2 of the Supply and Demand chapter. Overall, the management plan received the support of the members of the GUAC, in particular regarding the proposed conservation programs, the proposed rate of reduction, as well as ADWR's leadership at the level of stakeholder engagement involved in the development of this plan. I will now provide a brief overview of some of the data related to the AMA and a summary of the proposed plan. The Douglas Active Management Area map is shown here, located entirely within the Douglas Basin. It encompasses 949 square miles. The Douglas AMA encompasses the former Douglas INA. The results of the election establishing the Douglas AMA expanded the regulated area to encompass the entirety of the basin. This slide shows the historical overdraft within the Douglas AMA from 1990 to a projection of 2034. Overdraft is a calculation of the inflow of water minus the outflow of water. As seen in this graph, the net overdraft for each year has been on an upward rise. As will be presented in more detail, the department is aiming to reduce each year's groundwater overdraft by an average of 640 acre-feet to achieve a reduction in annual overdraft of 6,400 acre-feet by the end of the first 10-year period. The following slides contain a summary of the proposed management plan. Management plans were established as a part of the Groundwater Management Act in 1980. The plan being presented today is the first management plan for the Douglas Basin, and the conservation programs contained in the plan and this presentation on the plan are designed to achieve reductions in groundwater withdrawal. The proposed management plan contains the following chapters, which I will be going over. The Groundwater Management Act established the Department of Water Resources and put into place the original AMAs and INAs. The Act also provided for the establishment of subsequent AMAs and INAs through director designation or local initiative. The Act set forth the statutory requirements for developing management plans for AMAs, which established conservation measures to help curb the withdrawal of groundwater. With the creation of the Douglas AMA, a management plan is statutorily required. Throughout multiple public workshops, 8 in total with stakeholders, we were able to craft a plan that considered the unique needs of the Douglas stakeholders. The Douglas AMA is the first active management area established in Arizona by local election and the first established since the original AMAs were created by the Groundwater Management Act. This is highly significant and is indicative of the urgency and importance of groundwater conservation in Arizona. Establishing new conservation requirements is not an easy task, and for the stakeholders of the Douglas AMA, this management plan is no exception. The department has been dedicated to having open lines of communication open with the stakeholders of Douglas during the development of this management plan, and will continue to do so in the coming years to help create a more sustainable water future in the Douglas Basin. The management goal states, the management goal of the Douglas AMA is to support the general economy and welfare of water users in the basin by reducing the rate of aquifer depletion by an amount established in the first management plan and by additional reductions established in each subsequent management plan every 10 years thereafter. As mentioned before, the aim is to reduce each year's groundwater overdraft by 640 acre-feet to achieve a reduction in annual overdraft of 6,400 acre-feet by the end of the first 10-year management plan period. The department shows this change to the rate of reduction based on several factors. In addition to a large volume of informal comments from the public, input from the GUAC was especially important in this consideration. By changing the rate of reduction to 640 acre-feet per year from the original 340 acre-feet per year, the increase in reduction puts the plan in line with a 1% increase in annual overdraft each year for a 10% decrease over 10 years. This rate of reduction will be achieved through the implementation of the programs tailored to the characteristics of the Douglas Basin, which will support the general economy and the welfare of the users in the basin and reduce the rate of aquifer depletion. Additionally, these reductions will allow water users time to transition to the initial conservation requirements and continue operations while also reducing outflows to protect groundwater long-term. With the conservation measures proposed in the first management plan, the department projects a downward trend in overdraft within the basin. The department has prepared a memorandum with more information regarding how the decisions involved were reached, which has been made publicly available on our website. This chapter covers general climate data from the basin, the different sediments that the aquifer is made of, and more information on land subsidence. Agriculture accounts for 87% of demand in the Douglas AMA, with more than 18,000 acres currently in cultivation, by measure of this report published in December 2023. After completing a baseline analysis from 1990 to 2022, the department estimates that there is insufficient supply of annual supply to meet annual demand. Analysis results show that a negative balance of supply and demand exists every year, meaning more water leaves the basin than enters. Recharge means storage of excess renewable water supplies, non-groundwater, for future use and intent to replenish the aquifer pursuant to the Underground Water Storage, Savings, and Replenishment Act. There are currently no existing permitted recharge facilities in the Douglas Basin. Those that would like to create one should contact the department for proper permitting and assistance in doing so. The Agricultural Conservation Program is required of all irrigation grandfather right holders. The two programs within the plan are the BASE program and the Integrated Farm Program. The BASE program is a default conservation program for IGFR holders. The Integrated Farm Program is an alternative program that right holders can opt into. The BASE program is an allotment-based program. The allotment is based on historic acreage and historically grown crops. Allotments are based on irrigation water duty and the water duty acreage. To calculate the irrigation water duty, the department takes the total irrigation requirements, i.e. consumptive use and leaching allotments, multiplies that by the historic irrigation acres, and divides the total of that by assigned irrigation efficiency of either 80, 83, or 85%. The department calculated crop consumptive use by considering USGS data, INA annual reports, and weather data. These consumptive use numbers determine how much water an acre of a specific crop would need to produce in a single year. Where comments pointed to errors or data inconsistencies, we worked to verify the information provided to make corrections. On the next slide, it has the list of crop consumptive use in acre feet per acre. The list of crops was compiled through the applications submitted to the department. Based on comments and recommendations received, the department has updated the irrigation efficiencies tiered system, updating the range of acres from 10 to 99, 100 to 499, and 500 plus with a set irrigation efficiency of 80, 83, and 85% respectively. This change is made to establish a more equitable distribution of farms in the area and to achieve the greatest reduction in aquifer depletion while accounting for economic restraints faced by some users in the basin. The department has prepared a memorandum with more information regarding how the decisions involved were reached, which has been made publicly available on our website. The Integrated Farm Program is an alternative program that allows an owner or operator of IGFRs to combine the allotments and apply water anywhere within the combined footprint of the IGFR. This allows ease for reporting purposes by allowing the owner to file a single annual report for the combined footprint. By opting into the program, the combined allotments will receive a 5% cut to the aquifer. The Municipal Conservation Program includes two types of municipal providers, large and small providers. A large municipal provider delivers more than 250 acre-feet of water to customers, and a small provider delivers less than 250 acre-feet of water to customers. Large municipal providers will be enrolled in the Integrated Water Resources Plan program. Both large and small providers are required to stay under a certain percentage of loss in unaccounted for water. The Integrated Water Resource Plan is a scenario planning program and is a new conservation program designed for the large municipal providers in the Douglas AMA. Based on stakeholder input, a plan was created to tailor to the needs of the basin while ensuring future growth, economic welfare, and to further the overarching goal of reducing groundwater withdrawals in the Douglas Basin. Chapter 5 provides more detail of the program's requirements. The department has prepared a memorandum with more information regarding how the decisions involved were reached, which has been made publicly available on our website. All providers must limit the total amount of lost and unaccounted for water in the distribution system. Large municipal providers are required to have no more than 10% of total quantity of water. Small municipal providers are required to have no more than 15% of total quantity of water. An individual user is a person or entity that only receives water from a municipal provider for non-irrigation uses. These users include turf-related facilities, public right-of-ways, and large-scale cooling facilities that are not part of large-scale power plants. Individual users are responsible for staying in compliance and meeting conservation requirements. Chapter 6 describes the Industrial Conservation Program in detail. Industrial users withdraw pursuant to a Type 1 or Type 2 irrigation grandfather right or a withdrawal permit. Within the Douglas AMA, all industrial users are required to submit a conservation plan to the department. The type of industrial facilities are turf, sand and gravel, power plants, cooling, dairies, feedlots, mining, and large industrial or commercial users. Again, all these facilities are required to submit conservation plans to the department with timelines and detailed plans for conservation improvements. Turf facilities are facilities with 10 or more acres of water-intense landscaping. Turf facilities have an allotment-based program using total turf acreage, and sand and gravel facilities that use more than 100 acre-feet of water within the calendar year are regulated by the department. Power plants can be described as steam electrical plants, combustion turbine plants, and combined cycle plants. Cooling towers cool the water used to absorb the heat which is generated as a byproduct of energy production. They are regulated if they have a minimum cooling capacity of 1,000 tons. Dairy operations annually housing a monthly average of 100 or more lactating cows per day. Dairy operations have an allotment-based requirement system based on the amount of lactating and non-lactating cows. Feedlot facilities are regulated if the operation houses and feeds an average of 100 or more beef cattle per day annually. Feedlots are also an allotment-based program based on the number of head the operation oversees. Metal mining operations that mine and process ores and use or the potential to use more than 500 acre-feet of water per year are identified as a mining facility. The large industrial or commercial user is a new facility type created for potential industry growth. They are users that use over 100 acre-feet per year. More details about each facility can be found in Chapter 6 of the plan. Chapter 7 has more details on implementation and compliance. Administrative reviews and variances were included in the plan as a way for users to adjust conservation requirements to account for hardships and challenges due to circumstances hindering the ability to meet the conservation requirement. If a person believes that an error or omission was made in calculating the person's irrigation water duty or conservation requirement, or that the person's irrigation water duty or conservation requirement is unreasonable because of circumstances unique to the person may request an administrative review. If a person requires additional time to comply with a new irrigation water duty or conservation requirement, the person may apply for a variance. The department will have applications available on our website soon. All groundwater right holders must submit an annual water withdrawal and use report to the department due annually on March 31st. The department has prepared a memorandum with more information regarding how the decisions involved were reached, which has been made publicly available on our website. The purpose of the Water Strategy chapter is to recognize the importance of water and conservation within the Douglas AMA. It emphasizes the full range of interconnected issues and potential challenges the basin faces. This plan and the conservation requirements set forth within are just one part of a set of tools that allows Arizona to manage its water supplies carefully. Promoting creative and innovative ways to conserve groundwater through stakeholder collaboration is just one way to help move the state forward and preserve water for future generations to come. Finally, I would like to acknowledge the fact that this management plan is very much a team effort, with an enormous amount of work put in by AMA staff, by other staff from across the department, from GUEC members, and from the regulated community. We would not be where we are today without the collaborative effort of all those people and many more. So thank you to all who have contributed in any way. Thank you for your time and attention.